And welcome back. We are now going to continue our work with branching statements. If you recall, last time we brushed up on if-else. Now let's go ahead and take our look at switch statements. And this is going to be a pretty quick lesson comparison because, again, we already have done some of this review. Now, switch statements are very similar to what we've seen with if-else and how they handle conditional testing. But it's simply just going to end up being another way for Java to handle it. And both ways are perfectly valid approaches to how you handle information. The biggest difference here between if-else and with switch statements is that we have a switch variable in order to determine which branch that we want to move to. Now, each case of the switch should be ended with a break, and the final case should be default. Remember, if you don't put a break in there, it can keep testing for additional cases. And if we look at this example real quick, I have int value is 3 and final number. I have switch value. Case 1, final number is equal to value. Break, default, final number equals 0. So what this does, it's going to plug in 3 for value. So it's going to say switch 3. So it looks to see, is there a case with this value? So if you look, we only have case with the value of 1. So unless this set int value equals 1, it will not have this case statement happen. Instead, it's going to go to the default here and set final number equal to 0 before falling out. Now, you will notice, of course, that the default acts very similar to how our else statements are. With else statements, they act as kind of like a catch-all or a bucket that you really use to help anticipate scenarios or plan for scenarios that may not fit into specific use cases. Now, this is all great, so let's see how this looks in a coding perspective. Alright, so I went ahead and created a switch statement here, and let's go ahead and just break this one down. So I have int day equal to 5. I also have a string day string, which is fine, because if we look at that, day string is going to be set in each of these cases here. And it's one that's simply just making the days of the week. So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then an invalid day here. Okay, so int day equals 5. 5, of course, is going to be plugged in for a day. So it's going to look for the value 5. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I found my case. And so I'm going to set day string equal to Friday. And we have this break, which is going to kick us out of this switch statement so it doesn't test the rest of these cases. And then just simply prints out. And if we were to run this code here, we, of course, get the value of Friday. Now, if I wanted to make this a little bit better of a program, instead of hard coding this to 5, I could make this into a user input. So if I were to run this version of the program and I were to plug in, let's say 3, we get Wednesday. If I run it again, and let's say I put in something like 10, which is a valid integer, but it's not a case that exists, you notice we get the invalid data input because 10 does not exist on here. Now, if I were to change, let's just say this one to 10, and rerun it with that same value, we of course do get it to go to Monday here. And that's simply because it's looking for that exact value here. And so this is a good way to, again, use specific cases that you can test for. And it's just another way that we can use a different kind of branching statement.